Welcome to Coach Connects. Coach Connects is an umbrella programme for Irish cricket coaches, providing opportunities for qualified coaches and non-coaches alike to share knowledge, network, participate in training and to learn from some of the best coaches in cricket. This is our Coach Discussions piece, where we give coaches the platform to share their story. You'll hear from coaches, giving insights on coaching from different sporting codes that will help you in your coaching journey. I am your host, Stephen Maxwell, and welcome to Coach Discussions. This week, our special guest is Andy McCrea. Welcome, Andy.
Hello, Stephen. Thanks for having me along.
First of all, thanks for joining us today. Hopefully you've had a lovely weekend. Andy, for those who do not know you within Cricket Ireland, would you mind giving us a brief explanation on who is Andy?
Okay. Well, I've been involved in cricket for over 40 years now. As I started as a young boy playing. Temple Patrick Cricket Club would be my club for over 30 years now, where I'm the cricket development officer there. I'm involved in lots of different environments, but Temple Patrick Cricket Club, I suppose, is where it really started. I'm the cricket development officer, so looking after the pathways for all the players engaging in cricket as young people, maybe through primary school, and then all the way up through all our teams to our first 11. So just making sure the pathways in place there are as good as possible. I'm a teacher, so I'm also involved in school cricket for 30 years, 12 years with the boys model in Belfast, where cricket wasn't a main sport, but we wanted to offer the kids in the area cricket. Linked in with the local club, Woodvale Cricket Club. And then for the last 14 years, I've been with Campbell College in Belfast, where cricket is quite high profile there, I have to say. I'm also involved in interprovincial youth cricket for 22 years, various age groups, but probably for the last 10 years with the under 11s. I've done Irish youth sides in my time, under 15s, under 17s, really being the sort of the main group that I work with. That was for a number of years. And as you said at the start there, coach education. I've been involved with Cricket Ireland coach education for 17 years now. So I'm involved in quite a lot of different fields over the years, and I've enjoyed every single one of them. And I'm still active in all those environments as well.
That's brilliant. And listen, we're delighted to have you on board with Cricket Ireland in everything you do. And before we get going on it, everything you've explained there, 40 years in cricket, and I want to get this right, Andy. Okay, so a massive congratulations. Yeah, I spoke to you about this last week. You've recently received the British Empire Medal for services to cricket and young people in Northern Ireland. So that was obviously a massive achievement. So congratulations. How do you feel about that?
Very kind of you. Thank you very much. Yes, a bit of a shock the morning that the letter came in. Informing me of that, coming in from the Cabinet Office in London on the Queen's birthday's honours list. So yeah, I was completely blown away, and to be honest, still am a little bit blown away by it all. I've just been doing what I've loved for over 30 years, so it's nice it's nice to be recognised, and I'm very proud, I have to say, as a family for that recognition.
Fantastic. And listen, thanks for sharing that piece as well, Andy. Before we really get started, I'd love to know your own personal definition on what is coaching.
Okay, so I think a key one is there has to be learning. If it's going to be a good coaching session, I think there has to be learning involved. Otherwise, the players have arrived and the players have left. Yes, they might have had all the good ingredients like fun and engagement and participation and whatever. But if we really want to have proper coaching, I think there has to be progression in the players. Therefore, there has to be learning. I think if there's no learning, then it's just supervision, really, rather than coaching or cheerleading, as I've said in the past in some of the coach education courses. We can say, well done, that's good, that's great. But if we don't add any context maybe onto the learning that's going on and what we see in front of us, then we're not really coaching. So I think that has to be the key ingredient. And as I said, yes, there has to be good fun for the players, good fun for the coaches. People have to be engaged. There has to be maximising the engagement, as many touches of the ball as possible, rather than standing waiting for your turn. A good coach will have that all planned out so that there's maximised engagement. I think context is important. where people need to know, what am I learning and why am I learning this, rather than just turning up the session, doing something and then going home thinking, well, what was that all about? So a good coach will and players will understand why they're taking on board the activities that they're taking on board, because then they'll be able to link that in game scenarios and match scenarios. Yes, I have done this in that practice because. So making it relevant, adding context, and a good coach is adaptable to the players that he sees in front of him, or that she sees in front of them. Adapting the session, adapting to the players, adapting to the activity, and therefore always maybe tweaking it and being flexible to make sure the outcomes and the opportunities for the players are as good as possible.
That's a brilliant answer, Andy, and you've really broken it down there. It just shows the amount of experience you have behind you there. So, touching on that point, 40 years in cricket, can you take us back to when it all started, like playing as a young person? What got you into playing cricket, and then how did you get the coaching bug?
Well, with regards to playing, I was about 10, 11 years old when a few guys in the local village, Ballyrobert village, just outside McCrea, when we played football all winter on the school field, and a few of them had played cricket and I hadn't. They said, look, in the summer let's play some cricket. So we just played informal cricket in the school field, and then I when I moved schools then into grammar school, then we got the opportunity to play cricket there. So, and because I played a bit, informal, we were just teaching ourselves basically at that stage. That's when really I thought, you know what, this is quite good fun, and I just enjoyed the challenge. I enjoyed the one-to-one challenge of it, but it's also a team game as well as an individual, and it's a great game for just talking to people and socialising. And I just really took the bug for playing. And then I joined my local club, Temple Patrick Cricket Club, as I was saying. And I, at the age of 20, I'd made my way onto the first, sort of as a sort of bit of a fixture on the first. But I could see that the club at that stage, we were struggling to put out a seconds, and we didn't really have a youth structure. In fact, we had no youth structure. So me and a friend said, look, to the committee, we reckon if we can start putting a youth section into this club, the club's going to be a lot healthier, because we're a bit concerned about, whether it'll last without a youth section. So they were very supportive. I got my younger brother involved. Artie Campbell, the other guy, he got his younger brother involved. They got a few other mates. We advertised in the local schools what we were doing, and all of a sudden we had a youth team in 1992. And then sort of the year after that, 2 years after that, I thought, if we're going to do this properly, we need to be qualified as coaches, so that we've got a bit of a certification behind us, so that we know what we're talking about. And then that's when I did my first coaching course in about 1994, level 1. Then my level 2 in around about 1995, 96. And we sort of grew the club then. It was we entered in under 15s, and then we added in an under 13s, and we added in an under 11s. So thankfully now I'd say we're one of the biggest youth setups in Northern Ireland, with over 220 kids enrolled with us from P1, that's 4 years old, all the way up to 18 years old. So just from that small, humble beginnings of come and give cricket a go in my local primary school field, getting the bug for it, and then wanting to sort of grow the game in the area, it's been quite enjoyable.
That's fantastic. And like, for a young person, Andy, 20 years of age, to have that thought process that, if we get more people involved, we can grow the club and set up a youth system at 20 years of age, that's magnificent for someone so young. In terms of your coaching philosophy, so if you started, being a role model, a mentor, and a coach at 20 years of age, and then have been coaching so long, did you have a coaching philosophy back then? Did you know what one was? Do you have one now? And would you mind sharing it?
Well, the simple answer is no, I didn't have a coaching philosophy back then. Do I have one now? Yes, I'd like to think so. Coaching has changed a lot in all of those years. As a young coach, I was very much about the cricket, and to me, the cricket was vital. But now it's all about the person. and the person is far more important than the cricket. So as a young coach, I was a bit naive, really, and I just wanted to make everybody better cricketers. And nowadays, I want to make or help people be better people, and I think that's far more valuable to people in their lives. And the cricket will come along with that. The cricket is just the vehicle for helping people develop. But I didn't see that when I was young, I have to say. And coaching courses reflect that as well. So when I did my level 1 and level 2, and this is a bit of a learning for me, I had all this cricket knowledge. We were given loads of what to coach. So I knew lots about how to help people how to help people improve their actual cricket. But I didn't know how to deliver that properly. Whereas as coaching courses have changed over the years, they did have the what to coach. Then after about 10 years, they included the what to coach and the how to coach. So the people on those courses were, helped with how to deliver proper sessions, how to give feedback, how to communicate with their players. We weren't taught that back in the early days. And nowadays, then we're into another generation of coaching courses where it's the why. Why do we need to know this? Why do our players need to know this? So coaching courses have changed over the years, and I've probably been through all the changes because I was on the first cohort of stuff, and learned lots, but didn't know how to deliver it. That came across in one of my key learnings, where a friend at the club, Artie Campbell, said to me after I'd done my level 2, I'm thinking I knew a lot about cricket and how to coach people. And he said to me after about 6 months of doing my level 2, he said, Andy, I just want to let you know something. You're starting to annoy people at your club. And I went, Artie, why? Like, it was completely through me. And I said, Artie, I'm trying to help these people be better. He says, yeah, you're annoying them because you keep telling people all the things they're doing wrong and how they could be better here and how they could be better here. And people are starting to switch off from you. Now, it completely threw me, but it was smashing feedback. It really was. It really made me sit back and think, you know what, he's right. I know all this stuff, but I'm not delivering it properly. So it was a great learning. I really appreciate him telling me that. It was hard to take at the time, but in the long term, I learned a lot from it.
That's fantastic. And then just to touch on your philosophy, Andy. So I'm currently doing some CPD myself, and one of the things is the coaching philosophy and the coaching process. And they're asking different coaches the importance of actually writing down your philosophy. So I'm just wondering, have you ever written it down, or have you ever really put a lot of thought into it?
I have, but it's always evolving. It's always changing. You know, if you go back to those keywords, Stephen, that we mentioned at the start about maximising engagement, fun, making sure there's learning. So it would just be a paragraph of those key buzzwords. Player-centred. It has to be player-centred, whereas in the old days, it wasn't player-centred for me anyway. It was all just about, I'm the coach, I've got this information, here's the information. And I probably wasn't engaging the learners, the players well enough at that stage. Whereas nowadays, I would probably be quieter and I would let the players talk and find out their thoughts more than me talking, because it's all about the player now, isn't it? Rather than it's all about the coach in the old days.
No, that's fantastic. It really is. And then, you got started at 20 years of age, so to speak, but how do you think your coaching has evolved, and what have been the big learning points? Obviously, you mentioned there that key feedback you got, but 20 years of age, I'm guessing you're in college. So how has your teacher education supported your coaching and vice versa?
Well, I'll probably say that my coaching has supported my teaching more than teaching has supported my coaching. Technology and design is the subject that I teach. And the link there is there's lots of demonstrations, so demonstrations on how to use the different tools or working with the different materials. So I'm drawing upon my cricket coaching delivery, where you're demonstrating various shots or various fielding techniques or whatever. So I think, to be fair to all the coaching education that I have been involved in, it has helped my teaching more. I'm probably a better teacher because of my coaching. I hope anyway, if any of my pupils are picking up on this. And you mentioned key learnings. Yes, the Artie Campbell's feedback where I was annoying people was a real learning curve. I'm glad he did say that. Other great learnings was I had the pleasure of coaching alongside Eddie Burrell, who at the time was the Irish senior coach. from South Africa, for those who know Eddie, and I know he influenced a lot of players, but he certainly influenced coaches as well. And I was a level 2 qualified coach at the time, and Eddie was doing different road shows around the country, and he asked me along to come and coach with them at a couple of them in Northern Ireland. And I, as a level 2 coach who'd been qualified for quite a few years, thought I was doing an okay job. But then I saw Eddie in action, and you think, you know what, I'm only messing about here. He's on a completely different level, as he should be. But it inspired me to be better. It inspired me to go and find more knowledge. It inspired me to basically kick on with what I thought were good sessions that I was delivering. But once you see somebody else, it really does make you evaluate a little bit more what you're doing. And so he inspired me. And the other learning was then not long after that, and the reason I said yes was probably because of Eddie. I got the opportunity to go and do my level 3 coaching qualification over in England. So having the fact that Eddie was coaching at a different level, and then I got the opportunity to increase my knowledge and increase my qualification, I said yes to that quite quickly, and I'm glad I did, because it just gave me more knowledge, just gave me more confidence. So I think those are the 3 sort of key learning points along my path. The early feedback where you're not really going about this the right way, seeing somebody else in action who's really good and inspired me, and then the opportunity to go and further my knowledge.
That's fantastic, and thanks for sharing. You're taking off all my questions here that I have ready for you, so that's brilliant. In terms of learning, Andy, obviously you've talked about all your formal coach education that you've been through, but in terms of your learning to be a coach and to be a better person, like, where do you learn?
I'll be honest here and say that you had given me a little bit of a preamble of some of the questions that might be popping up, and that was on it. And I'm going to give you maybe an unusual answer here. I learn in my brain. I'm always analysing, and I'm always trying to evaluate what I see in front of me. So I reflect an awful lot. I reflect on my own coaching. I reflect on what I see the players do. I reflect on what I see other coaches deliver and how I see the players interact. So I'm always evaluating and analysing what I see in front of me. So that's where I get my most relevant learning from, I think, because I'm always looking to make things better. Never happy just with that was good, I'm going to deliver it that way every single time from now on. I'm always thinking, how can I tweak it? How can I make it better? How can I make it more relevant to the players? How can the players get more opportunity out of that particular session? So I think, where do I learn? My brain is, and don't want to be cheesy or anything about it in that way. That's where I think I do. Of course, there's other resources out there, and when I was, looking through my sort of various bits and pieces, the Wings to Fly DVDs were excellent that the ECB used to produce. I think everything's now online, but I used to wait for the Wings to Fly DVDs come in, and it was modern coaching techniques. It was recognised international coaches from all around the world that were picking their brains. They were seeing how they went about things. And it was just gold dust. And then I took those and tried to tweak them into my style of coaching. They're now, those sorts of things are now available on Twitter through the I Coach Cricket Twitter handle. So at I Coach Cricket. So you're getting the same sort of stuff, but you're getting it in little bite-sized videos rather than a big package DVD that used to come in annually.
That's brilliant, Andy. And then in terms of formal coach education, because obviously you are a coach developer yourself, how do you think that supports coach education, and is it doing enough?
How does what is support coach education?
So how is formal coach education supporting coaches right now? Is it doing enough? Do we need more?
I think Cricket Ireland have got a good pathway there in place if people tap into the right relevant course for them. We now, through Cricket Ireland, there's activators through the It's Wicket scheme, for example. That's your sort of real beginner level, where you just want to help kids enjoy cricket sessions and work alongside a more qualified cricket coach. So you've got your activator coach. Then you've got your Coaching Kids course, which is a 1-day course, roughly 6 hours. Then you've got your level 1, which is a 2-day course, so therefore 12 hours, and that's got a formal assessment at the end of it. where as assessors then we can say to somebody at the end of the course, that congratulations, you have showed us the skills and you're now able to go out there and work in a coaching environment. With coaching kids, the 6-day course, you're really looking you'll be a helper, to be honest, and help facilitate sessions along with more qualified coaches. And then if it's really something that you want to throw yourself into, we've got the level 2 coaching courses, or core coaches they're now called, through the ECB. So the ECB are just about to roll out their next generation of coaching qualifications. So it was called Certificate for Coaching. It's now called Core Coach. And Cricket Ireland are very lucky that they can tap into the ECB for that resource and all the knowledge and resources that they have behind them. So yes, and then of course you can kick on after that. But by the time you're looking to get into beyond level 2, you really have to have a lot of coaching hours under your belt. You really have to be working regularly as a coach in different environments, because level 3 and above it's quite in depth. So wherever areas you're working in, your union, your club, if they can tap into good level 3 coaches, that's a pretty good resource to tap into.
Brilliant. And just before that, you touched on how you learn, and you mentioned reflection. So why is reflective practice so important, Andy, as a coach?
Well, I think we've always got to try and deliver as good sessions as possible as we do to the people in front of us. And I'm talking also about coach education here. When I come away from a coach education course as a deliverer on that, I'm thinking, was that good enough? Could that be better? How could we go about that differently? Did the cohort in front of me get what they wanted out of the session? So we can't just stand up in front of a group of players or in front of a group of prospective coaches and just deliver. We've got to take their thoughts on board. So we want to give the best opportunities to all our players in front of us. We want to give the best opportunities to all the prospective coaches in front of us. So we should always be reflecting. Did we do that right? Could we do that better? What worked? Why did it work? What didn't work? Why did it not work? And then, of course, involving the players and coaches in the feedback as well, picking their brains. I'm big enough and old enough now to take criticism.
Oh, that's brilliant. And then in terms of your own reflection, so if Andy's going to go out and coach this evening and say you finish at 8 p.m, so from 8 p.m. onwards, what is your process? How do you reflect, if you wouldn't mind sharing with everybody?
Well, I think you need a bit of downtime, switch off the brain. Now, I know you shouldn't switch off your brain while you're driving, but the drive home for me is from a session or from a coaching course is very much a time where I'm in my own space and I'll just try and process everything. And then people that have been on the coach education courses will know that I'll probably come back the next day and by then I'll have worked out there's a couple of things that I feel maybe weren't clarified well enough, or maybe we didn't go into enough detail. So at the start of day 2, there's always a little bit of catch up on my thoughts and processes from the previous day. So it just switch off the brain, just think about running the day through where appeared to be maybe a little bit vague. Where did the participants maybe not answer the questions in the way that I sort of hoped they would? Therefore, maybe the clarity of the questions just wasn't there, that I was creating a little bit of confusion or something. Or indeed maybe an outcome, maybe the outcome from the players or from the coaches. I'm sure by now, Stephen, you're picking up that coaching and coach education, it's very much the same thing. The audience is just different. We're just trying to get the best out of the people in front of us. So outcome, evaluating the outcome as well. Was it really what we were after? Therefore, we need to have a rethink about the delivery possible.
That's brilliant. And you've mentioned the word process there, and it's something I'm reflecting on an awful lot now myself in my coaching process. So does my coaching process change from group to group, or do I have a set coaching process? And it's something I'm trying to design at the moment. So I'm asking you, Andy, do you have a set coaching process, or does it change from group to group that you're working with?
I think it definitely changes from group to group, and I work in such a wide variety of age groups as well, and ability levels. Coaching 4-year-old boys and girls right up to adults in my youth, in my club, and also then at school and in pro. You know, you're working with some high level kids there as well as beginners. So yeah, you have to push all the right buttons at the right time. You know, is this just purely about fun and engagement? Because back to the learning that I said, you know, maybe sometimes you just have to let them play, and just let them participate. And then other times, right, we need to really accelerate the learning here on this, and we really need to ask some deep questions just to work out what the thought process going on in the players. And very much then sometimes you just hand it over to the players and say, show us what you've got to offer. But you're observing, of course, and finding out and trying to go through your own process. I wonder what this player is thinking. So then ask them, you know, why did you execute it that way? What game plan did you have? Of course, working with 4 and 5 year olds, what's their game plan? Probably just whack the ball as hard as they can and have as much fun as they can. So I might have danced around your question there, but I think the short answer is, well, you've got to have a different process for the people that you have in front of you, based on their age, based on their ability level, based on what they want out of the game.
No, that's fantastic. That's exactly what I was looking for, Andy. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And then you touched on the learning environment there and how you create it and how it's evolved through your many years of coaching. So if you were to take an under 15s training session this weekend, how would you create that learning environment for them?
Okay, so we've got to challenge them. We've got to know where they are to start with. So hopefully I'll have seen them for a few sessions before that, and I've had a bit of a think about what's their level at the minute. And then you need to know where do they want to get to. What standard, you know, and that's the coach and the player working together. You know, what sort of skills you want to execute. Let's take it bowling, for example. So maybe they want to work on their slower deliveries. They want to work on their variety balls. You've maybe done a few sessions previously with their stock balls, so they've got that nailed. But you have to have that conversation continually. It's not about the coach trying to force people down this path because the coach thinks that's the right path to go. Yes, your coach has got the knowledge, but it has to be a journey together where the player realizes, you know, this is the path I need to take. These are the skills I need to work and improve. So you said under 15s. By the time they're under 15s, they're starting to learn their own game pretty much, and they're starting to know their own strengths and weaknesses, and they're starting to decide, I need to develop my strengths, yes, but there's a couple of weaknesses I think I really need to work on. For example, slower deliveries. And then together set up the challenges. Okay, so we're going to work on this particular aspect of your game, and keep putting it back to the player. How would you like to go about that? The coach has the knowledge, but we need to unpick it out of the players' brains, rather than the coach just spilling out and saying, right, we're going to do this, and this. The player needs to be involved in the process as well. And if it's a group of players, even better, because then they can share their thoughts and they can learn from each other. So your question was, how do we take players on a journey? Very much with them and working together and setting challenges and targets that they see where they want to be in their own game.
Oh, that's brilliant. You know, there was no right answer there. I just wanted to see how you create your learning environment, Andy. So thanks for sharing. And then in terms of learning, so you're coaching maybe a group twice a week. So how do you create that learning going for those other 5 days? Would you have any tips, or is there something that you use for your players to be thinking about what you've been working on in the session to create that learning outside of practice?
Okay, so basically I'll use my club here as an example. So we've got sort of the structure of how season might pan out over, let's say, 12 sessions. So there's that framework there in place. And then you might do a particular session, let's say overarm throwing with a group of kids. And you might say, well, we didn't get as far in that particular skill as we really wanted to. So you might have to come back and visit that then in a week or two down the line, and try and catch up on where you feel you didn't progress as well, where the players didn't progress. So some things will take longer. Some things will take shorter, and then you can really accelerate through those a little bit quicker and set their challenges. And then, of course, you can, what we do is you can, here's little videos or YouTube clips. Here's high catching. We've worked on that today. Go away and work on this. Young leg spin bowlers. There's a couple of YouTube clips I would say on young leg spin bowlers, just to look at different grips, look at the way the professional coaches and the professional players are trying to execute their skills. So feeding those back to their parents to say, look, pass this on to your son or your daughter and get them have a look at this to see how it's being tackled in the professional world, just to increase their learning, so it's not coming from their club coach all the time.
Fantastic. And Andy, you mentioned on a few occasions now about coaching the person. So, you've 40 years experience, so I'm dying to pick your brain. And obviously loads of people are enjoying learning here this evening. So I'm just wondering, how do you build a relationship with your players, and how do you get that trust and get them believing that, you're there to support their learning?
Back to the Artie Campbell situation where players were avoiding me like the plague, which was flip me, here comes Andy McCrea to tell me 3 things I'm doing wrong. And that's where it was at, and people didn't want to approach me at all. And I mentioned that story on coach education courses as well, because I think as coaches, we can become very critical of our players in front of us, and we always want to say, I'm the coach, I can make you better, I can make you better. And we're very key to push our thoughts onto players. And it has to be the opposite of that. You really want to have yourself opened up where the players will approach you and say, look, could you help me with this? What's your thoughts on this? Could you come and spend 10 minutes with me? I'm trying to get better at whatever. So you want to be moving completely from the stage where I was at, where players would avoid you, right up to modern day where players will come and want to engage with you. And that's just about showing that you care, showing that you've watched them in a game, you've watched them in a practice, you can see where their successes are. Get the good stuff in first, build them up a little bit, say, oh, you're really good at X, Y, and Z. And then maybe got the questions, but how are you coping with A, B, and C, which are maybe the things that you as a coach think they're struggling a wee bit, maybe they need a little bit of support. So rather than ramming things down their throat, if you've got to a stage where they know you care about them, they will come to you and they will want to engage with you as a coach. What's the saying I picked up on Twitter? They won't care what you know until they know you care. I saw that recently on Twitter and I thought that was a nice way of putting it. They won't care what you know until they know you care.
Brilliant. I really like that one. And then putting on your coach developer hat now, Andy, have you any tips for coaches or young coaches coming through, or coaches who maybe only have a few years of experience and are looking to get themselves onto the next level? Would you mind sharing?
Okay, I think a great line, and I had it with Eddie Burrell, was watch other coaches in action. And I think the important thing is it's not about the drills that the coaches, the experienced coaches are doing. It's probably about how they interact with their players. And that's the previous question you've just asked me, how do you build a relationship with their players? So watch how that coach engages with the players and listen to the words that they use. The interaction with the players is far more important than the drill that the players are engaged in. And be a sponge then and soak up as much as you can. And maybe the experienced coach will let you take pictures, maybe they'll let you video the session or whatever, but just be a sponge and soak up what's going on. Get feedback from somebody you can trust, a mentor, a critical friend like I did. Keep it simple. I think coaches they want to sort of spill everything out and show how much knowledge they have. That'll probably flood the players, and they'll maybe feel as if this is information overload. Sometimes keeping it simple, and it's amazing when you watch high-level coaches in action, how they always seem to just nail the basics, and they're always wanting their players to nail the basics. And that can be a little bit, the more inexperienced coaches will want to just show, here's all the stuff I know. Let everything just find their place and get the foundations in place through simple work, simple coaching, simple drills, and then build on those good foundations. And I think generate a love for the game. Coaches have to generate a love for the game. You want to have your players coming back the next session. There's like Twitter, for example. I do like Twitter for picking up little sound bites and stuff. So there was a football one. Some football coaches think they're a great coach when their under 11s win the league, and the answer is no. You're a great coach. You're an excellent coach when all of your under 11s come back next year to be in your under 12s. That's far more invaluable than getting a little bit of silverware in the cabinet. Let's have people wanting to come back and wanting to stay engaged with your sessions. So I think a great tip is make it enjoyable, keep people enjoying the game, and keep them involved in the game.
That's brilliant. And again, you've hit the nail on the head with my next question. I was just going to ask, in terms of podcasts, social media accounts, any resources you'd recommend? Like you touched on Wings to Fly, you touched on I Coach Cricket. Is there any other that you're always checking that account all the time, or a podcast that you find very educational for coaches?
Well, to stick with Twitter, there's a guy called Shane. I'm gonna forget his name now. Give me a sec. Shane Smith. The name of the company. Shane Smith. So Shane Smith is not a cricket guy. He's a GAA is his background, and he's also a school teacher. He might be a school principal, but he's just always putting out there coaching philosophy type stuff. And I do sort of it does strike a chord with me the way he thinks good coaching should be delivered. So Shane Smith would be one. A guy called McCrea, who's an American. He has coached tennis and a lot of other Olympic sports as well. But he would be a bit of a sort of leadership guru, culture ethos type guru. So again, just picking up bits and pieces that he's putting out there on Twitter. Not really into podcasts, I have to say. I was in lockdown. Everybody loved the podcast in lockdown. So my podcast for lockdown was Inside the Mind of Champions, which is Jeremy Snape. And for those who are into the cricket, Jeremy Snape was a cricketer, played for England as a spin bowler, but he's now a sports psychologist. So Inside the Mind of Champions was a podcast about mostly about leadership and creating the right culture within groups. It was generic about leadership and culture, but because Jeremy is a cricket guy, there was a fair whack of cricket content in there as well. He worked with the Rajasthan Royals in the IPL, so very good about just creating the right mindset in individuals and organisations, and creating the right ethos and helping people be the best that they can be. So I enjoyed that.
Brilliant. And just for everybody listening, I'll throw all those handles on at the end for everybody to click on and have a look at Shane Smith or Alison McCall and link to the podcast. So thanks for sharing that, Andy. Just before we finish off, Andy, 40 years, honoured by the Queen. What's next? Coaching, coach development. What are we going to see from Andy McCrea over the next 5 years in coaching?
Hopefully still involved. I have to say, as a coach, it's great to see players still involved. Years when you meet them as a school teacher, you bump into them, whatever, and they're still playing. You must have done something to inspire them to love the game. Then as a coach developer, as a coach educator, it's great when I bump into coaches and they're still coaching. So therefore, hopefully you played a little bit of a hand in their pathway. So for me, I take a lot of satisfaction from seeing players still involved that I've coached, or coaches still involved that I've helped through their coaching qualifications. So for the next 5 years, hopefully I'm still involved, hopefully I'm still active, and hopefully still enjoying it and loving it, because I do get a lot out of it. So hopefully I'm giving a little bit back as well at the same time. That's
brilliant, Andy. And listen, thank you very much for joining us this evening on Coach Discussions and sharing your journey. Thank you, Andy.
No problem. Thank you very much, Stephen.
I hope you enjoyed today's coach discussion. If you would like to share your coaching journey, log on to cricketprograms.com/Coach Connects and sign up today. Here are the social media recommendations discussed in today's coach discussion. Why not check them out and add to your coaching toolbox?